like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
The Boruto writers in this episode wanted to build the character of Deepa, and they did exactly that. Deepa seems to be a very good character, and a lot of the Boruto fans out there absolutely love his character so far. Hopefully he does keep up that good streak, and hopefully fall into Deepa a lot more. Now, of course, one of the big parts about this review is going to be Deepa and his characteristics, and exactly what he did in this episode. Now, we first seen him basically demolishing a couple of people that was inside of the princess's castle, quote unquote. It started off with Deepa absolutely lying to a couple of poor souls that was just looking for some treasure. He basically asked them a couple of questions. They didn't really care for it. Deepa just completely wiped the floor with them, just one-shot punches. And I actually never really seen that in Naruto before, but Deepa supposedly has some dynamite in his fist. After they died, Deepa's talking about, if you just followed my instructions, you wouldn't have died.
Cap.
30 seconds later, a couple of people followed all of his instructions, and he didn't really care either. He just completely wiped the floor with them. But into the battle versus Omoi and his team, this was probably the best scene of the whole entire episode. Coming into this episode was kind of a question of if this is actually Omoi, and I can't necessarily blame a lot of you guys for kind of questioning if it was actually Omoi, mainly because we haven't really got to see Omoi and Boruto in depth. We did kind of see him show up in the 5 Kage summit when the Raikage did actually make an appearance, and also Omoi in this arc doesn't really have anything in his mouth. Not to sound completely sus, but usually when we do see Omoi, he has a lollipop, a toothpick. He has something in his mouth, and that's just unique to him, and that pretty much lets everybody see that that right there is actually Omoi. But regardless, during the fight, Deepa did almost exactly what I thought that he would do. I thought that Deepa would be extremely powerful, and Omoi, the only thing that we could pretty much hope from him is that he does not die in this arc. But coming into this episode, one of the more interesting things is going to be to see how exactly Deepa fights. Now, it seems like Deepa is like the Mike Tyson of Boruto. Every single time that we did see him, he used complete hands, like just all hands, all fists. It seems completely different from what we've seen from a lot of the other fighters in Naruto. One of the things that I'm going to be really worried about is because he fights so different, a lot of people might actually underrate him. For example, I really can't, even though I understand that Deepa is going to be extremely strong, I really can't see Deepa fighting in that particular style, or anybody fighting in that particular style, versus an elite character, for example Naruto or Sasuke. But at this point, I think it's safe to say that that's not Deepa's only ability. I think just in this episode, he was playing around a lot, and he even said it audibly that he was kind of playing around. He kind of seeing this as fun, and of course, if you're seeing this as fun, you're probably not going to pull out all your abilities right then and there. Omoi, on the other side, he was pulling out everything in his repertoire, did everything except going to 7 gates in Sage mode. But Deepa was eating lightning style, blocking swords with his fist, and also took a sword slash directly to the back, and it seemed like it didn't even really phase Deepa. The only thing that he was kind of worried about is the fact that he actually lost track of Omoi for the first time in the whole battle. That right there seemed extremely scary. Now, if you guys do ask me specifically what I think that Deepa's chakra nature is going to be, I think that I'm going to have to go with Earth style. Now, that's going to be the least, man, because we understand when we're dealing with elite ninjas like Deepa, they could potentially have all 5 chakra natures. Naruto and Sasuke both have all 5 chakra natures, plus the yin and yang releases. But I'm going to say Earth style, man, because Deepa wasn't phased by the lightning style at all. And if you guys know anything about the chakra releases, Earth style beats lightning style almost every single time. And also the fact that he was able to block swords and sword slashes with just his fist and his back. That right there could potentially be an Earth style jutsu where you just harden your body. If you guys do recall, back in Naruto Shippuden, when we did fight against a character called Kakazu, he did that a lot, but he had to actually audibly harden his body. Like, it didn't necessarily come natural. In this particular case, when we talk about Deepa, it might actually come natural to him. Like, his whole body might actually be hardened, and because of that, the swords wouldn't necessarily have any effect on Deepa. Now, even though in this episode he was dodging a lot of the sword slices, that might just be because Deepa was trying to have fun. Now, not only that, the Earth style will also explain why Deepa hits so hard. If you guys think about it, in theory, he'd probably be literally throwing bricks as fists. And as I said earlier, Deepa was actually killing people with just punching them. But as I said earlier in this video, because Deepa was seeing this as fun, he didn't really get into his bag of tricks. Like, he didn't really get into his Birkin, show us his repertoire. So I think in the next episode, possibly not in the next episode, but very shortly in the next episode, when he does decide to finish up this battle with Omoi, he could also show us some other things that he could possibly do. Maybe he has lightning style, maybe he has genjutsu, maybe he has a couple other things that could possibly just end this fight with Omoi extremely quickly. Now, not only that, Deepa has some advanced jutsu perception. He basically seen through a lot of things that Omoi was doing, except for that last ability when Omoi was able to hit Deepa with a direct attack with his sword. Other than that, Deepa was diagnosing everything that Omoi was trying to do. Now, I'm not saying that Deepa has a Sharingan or anything, but I'm telling you guys right now, it seems like Deepa is extremely experienced in battle, and there's going to be very few things that catches Deepa off guard, because there's a lot of things that Omoi pulled pulled out of his bag, that should have definitely caught Deepa off guard. I also found it super suspicious that Deepa automatically knew that they didn't really have the Hashirama cell, even though they didn't necessarily show that they didn't have the Hashirama cell. Like, Deepa didn't necessarily make them empty all their bag and show them their hands. He automatically knew. Now, if you guys directly contrast that to when the Cloud Ninjas actually confronted Team 7, they had no idea if they actually had the Hashirama cells or not. One of the theories that I feel like is probably going to be inevitable at this point is the fact that Deepa probably has a synthetic dojutsu. Now, I want to make a full video about this and explaining why I think that this theory possibly does have some credence, but just off of the rip, we know that the Kata organization has some very good technology, and this wouldn't necessarily be the first time that we did see synthetic dojutsus in the anime of Boruto. Now, real quick, getting off of Deepa mainly because he's not necessarily the only villain in this arc. There is another ninja team from the Haze village. Now, I thought that this team was going to be a very forgettable team, but it still might be the case, but the Boruto writers in this episode made it a point to give them a lot of character development in this episode, and I absolutely love that, Milan, because now we are not only looking forward to the battle versus a character like Deepa. In the next episode, and especially in this episode, I was really looking forward to Team 7 actually battling the ninjas from the Haze village, and in fact, I found myself subconsciously rooting for them. Before this episode, they really only had one thing going for them, and of course it was a very big thing, is the fact that they're from a smaller village. A lot of the fans out there who pretty much always like the underdog, they're kind of going to be a little bit more apt to root for this team, Milan, because they're battling against the Hidden Leaf village, basically the biggest and the strongest village. And of course, if you guys do want to see an underdog win, you're probably going to vote for the land of Haze. But after that, they really didn't have much going for them. But now in this episode, we've seen their ideals, we've seen what they actually gave up, we've seen what they sacrificed, and we also seen the people that they sacrificed to actually get to this point. And it's potentially going to be all for nothing, man, because Team 7 is hot on their heels. In this episode, they showed strong emotions to the brother that sacrificed his own life for them to actually just get into the castle. And now they're in a situation where they know that it's only 3 of them, and one of those 3 again is probably going to have to sacrifice his life for them to just get past this Team 7. Never mind the ninjas that are outside of the land of silence that they're probably going to have to fight off as well, just to get past this Team 7 right here. And also they have that thing with the earrings where it's like, if you think that you're going to die and you're going to go and sacrifice yourself, you also have to surrender your earring. That, in my opinion, was a great touch. And it's not like things like this is completely uncommon. We've seen this before, but it's just the fact that in this particular time, in a time of peace, there are still other villages out there that stick to this ideal. For example, back in the day with the Hidden Leaf village, the second Hokage basically sacrificed himself for the sake of the mission to pretty much save everybody else. But as I said, in this time of peace, it just seemed a little bit odd. But I want to point out, for this episode in particular, it fit right in, man, because this episode made me feel like I was watching Naruto. It made me feel like I was watching Naruto Shippuden. It was just that much tension, it was just that much entertainment, and it just had that much of a sense of danger. But let me know what you guys think about this episode in the comment section below. Let me know if you guys actually enjoyed this episode. Me personally, I think it was a very good episode, probably the best episode of the whole entire arc. Extremely well rounded, made me feel like I was watching Naruto or Naruto Shippuden again. But let me know what you guys think. It's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.